Pace is dropped on the morning show. John here, Jarrett there, you there. Thanks for coming in here on a Wall Pass Wednesday. As tradition for Wall Pass Wednesday, morning, Alex. It's whatever's on your mind. And as I set things up this morning when I was letting everybody know that we're up at 9:05, there's like news. There's like a lot of news and things. There's like Lester and Steve Bruce and Mike the Tiger and a lot of stuff. And so there's like a lot of news this morning. If Dylan
One
Butler,
of those things is not like the other one.
oh, I know, and that was kind of it's a blatant cross promotion of.
Well, the answer is Steve Bruce. Just
Yes,
spoiler alert.
yes, yeah. So that was it was a way to cross promote the other side of the family with the College Football X, which is now up. And for those of you that want to catch up on what's going on in college football after the weekend, you can go to the OSG Sports side of things, pick up your favorite podcatcher. John Wilkerson and I, in the interest of cross promotion, Wilkie decided he wanted to start the show off with a rant with me in Florida State. So that was 6 minutes of our lives that I can't get back, and yelling and screaming into the ether about what happened against Boston College.
John's sitting there staring at a picture long lived DeAndre Francois, I'm sure.
Oh my God. Looking at
Andrew Bate ain't walking through that door either, bud.
No. Looking at 12 men on the field and having BC score on 34 wham. Then the notion of a dual threat quarterback from Ware County High School that I've covered, only being recruited as a running back in Tallahassee. And then he goes to UCF, didn't work there, goes to BC. He's the smartest kid in his class for student athletes, and is responsible for an upset win in Tallahassee. And Florida State's 0-2. And so, yeah.
And the best part was when they, in the last drive, when they just kept running that naked bootleg, almost like just a naked bootleg off tackle.
Yeah.
Where like the right tackle or the tight end was setting the edge and turning him in. And then it was just a naked bootleg to the right. It was, is he looking to throw? No. Nah. It just turns into a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
It was picking up 20 yards a clip.
Yeah. And Thomas Castellanos, who hit the corner, and with everybody pinned in there at the 9 and the 0, Castellanos just turns right and heads upfield. And you end up with me screaming at a television, saying things I shouldn't say. And that's why I was off mic when I did it. And I was at home after we went and covered Emory and Oglethorpe. But no, this week's College Football X, it's the midweek show. Go to your OSG Sports settings, notifications, etc. John Wilkerson and I take you through the midweek. We catch you up on that. There was a rant from a Florida fan in a Denny's parking lot that was all over the place. And so we air that. Then we catch up with Joe Zagacki, the play-by-play voice of the Miami Hurricanes. And we also catch up with what we're trying to do in the midweek is we're trying to catch up with the new college football programs. There are 5 of them and various levels of competition, D3, NAI, what have you. Last week, we caught up with our friends from William Woods, the Owls, as they were getting ready for the Billy Bowl against William Penn. This week, we catch up with Sean Daniel, the head coach of the Simpson University Redhawks, the only NAIA school that has football in the state of California. And so that was a fun interview, finding out about building a program from scratch. And then we do college football on a budget. Traditionally, what we do there is we look for the get-in price to be $10 or less. And there are a lot. And so we sit there and we go through it. Would you go to this game? Would you go to this game? Would you go to this game? And for the price of going into Eastern Michigan and Washington, you could buy 50 tickets to get into Texas and Michigan. So the choice is yours. That's kind of what we do there, and then we go over the rest of the week. But yes, go to your favorite podcatcher, go to OSG Sports, and you can find all the college football content that we do during the year. So go over there for college football or here for opening kickoff, and you get to hear me rant about things. So I guess technically that was opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's the QR code for those of you who are watching us, however you are watching us this morning, whether it's on the 280-character app, the Twitch, or on the YouTubes. Go to Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Use the code SOCCERDOWNHERE15 when you check out, And what that does is it gets you 15% off, and then our friends at Kickoff Coffee, in turn, take 10%, reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives, cool stuff that they have earmarked from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Not to be outdone, here's our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps. I didn't have to hide the QR code for them this time. Over 30 years of experience in trying to find a career for you in nursing, or find another career for you in nursing. You want to go in other nursing frontiers, or if you want to go into the nursing frontier for the first time, hit that QR code. Alliance Nurse Corps, great friends with us here at SDH. And when they ask at Alliance Nurse Corps, how did you become aware of Alliance Nurse Corps, you sit there and you go, SDH, yo. I don't know if that works, but necessarily you sit there and you go, soccer down here, and they go, oh, we know that. And so that's our friends from Alliance Nurse Corps, great partners with us here at SDH, along with Kaiser Permanente and all of our partners that we have all year long.
And since Alex is here, let me ask this question, because we've already opened this rabbit hole.
Yes, we have.
Hey, Alex, how do you feel about FlightAware tracking flights from Gainesville to Oxford, Mississippi?
Oh boy!
Like like I said yesterday, the funniest outcome of this is Napier gets fired and they beat LSU or somebody with the interim on the dead cat bounce. But personally, I can't see Kiffin going to Gainesville.
No. I think that legitimately he's just having fun.
He's having a ball with this.
Oh yeah, and he's poking fun at folks in Gainesville and at LSU. You know, that he's recommending to Brian Kelly that he should have, was it a Coke Zero or a Diet Coke after
a Coke and a smile?
Yes, yeah. The rant for the ages about losing to USC. Well, maybe if you worked your defense and maybe had a defense, then you wouldn't have that problem. Just saying.
They brought in a good defensive coordinator. The problem is LSU's NIL setup is an absolute tire fire right now. And they've whiffed on the portal 2 straight years, and they're not bringing in enough guys, and they're not developing enough guys, and they're not portaling enough to make up for that.
Right.
So it's just going to continue to be bad.
Yes, absolutely true.
But, look, everyone will be fine as long as no one gets in a scissor lift on a windy day.
Don't remind me about how folks should really.
Remind me about the fact that they hired this man because the country club boosters decided they wanted someone that they could go brag about on the 9th green.
Mm-hmm. Instead of someone who was responsible for sending an intern up a scissor lift in hurricane force winds. But yeah, that's just us talking right now. Alex says, I told the boss, and she asked, who is Oxford? I said, your worst nightmare. And she said, not Kiffin, please, not Kiffin.
I don't think he'd go to Gainesville. He wants something big. He wants something bigger. I think we've really gone off the rails this morning.
It's opening kickoff.
We were supposed to discuss soccer on this show. I personally, I think he's going to parlay Oxford into something bigger than Gainesville. I don't even think he wants to be at Oxford.
I think it's going to be a larger salary and probably more stuff for juice on a daily basis.
Well, that's fine, but I don't even think he wants to be in Oxford. He wants to be in a more blue-blooded area.
Well, or do you? Because you can get away with more in Oxford than you would with the microscope being in other places. I mean, folks have to find a way to get to Oxford. The Memphis media have to drive to get to Oxford. You got to work.
I think his ego will demand more before all is said and done.
You got to work to cover things in Oxford. If you're in a larger market and you get the microscope that's there, I don't know if you get away with. If you are as creative as you are when it comes to the implementation of what you want to do with your program. Sorry, I used the word. Sorry, I used the words that I used, the pointed words when it came to that. But no, I think that you can do more, you can hide better, and you can get more things accomplished with the boosters in a situation like that. If you're by yourself, if you're off to the side, you're in a place that's difficult to get to, that's
gonna be funny as hell when you take the LSU job, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and then
3 or 4 years from now,
yeah,
Lane
exactly.
Kiffin, LSU. that man would execute a psychological warfare campaign against the Baton Rouge and New Orleans media. Everything along I-10 and I-12 would be burned to the ground.
Oh yeah,
and the earth would be salted. He would be in a constant Cold War with whoever is in the governor's mansion.
absolutely. So you got all that this morning. So yeah, CFB down here once again. OSG sports side of things, same church, different pew. We've got the review that comes out Sundays and Mondays to go over the weekend that was, and then the college football X comes out in the midweek. And by X, it's like X factors, things not normal in college football. Things that come across your bow in the midweek. So two college football.
We should steal the ticket thing, though. I like that idea for like a game week for MLS. We should find the cheapest ticket in MLS.
So soccer on a budget?
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, that's fine. We'll add that to Friday. That's perfectly fine.
Hey, we could do USL too as well, or USL as well, USL Championship as well.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Yeah, because I mean, you start getting down there and you start getting into like USL League 1 and League 2. You're into like what is already pretty affordable and a good deal and a good night of family fun.
Yes.
Championship in MLS would be where it's at. Like, how much do you really want to pay to go watch San Jose?
Yes. Well, and that reminds me, man, one of these days I've got to bust out my John Fisher protest T-shirt. So I've got to wear that on the air. I've got to find it and I got to wear it. So I officially do have investing in our friends at Last Dive Bar, the folks that tried to trademark and copyright Las Vegas A's, and were basically told no. They got beaten to the punch. They beat Fisher to the punch, but the USPTO, the Patent and Trademark Office, was like, no, sorry, you can't have that. So, Last Dive Bar has had their share of anti-John Fisher apparel, and full disclosure, I have it. And so I have two shirts, one that I probably can wear on the show and one that I definitely can't. So, so that's where we are. That's the elongated opening kickoff having to do with college football down here. Like I said, go to the OSG sports side of things. We got programs all week long that can get you through your week, and we get to catch up with newsmakers and really cool stories across the board. Okay. Yesterday, there was a lot of stuff that went on, and I don't know how how mad folks are about certain things, and how we might just laugh something off at a point. But and I guess this is kind of merging from opening kickoff into the show itself. Steve Bruce is coming back. A surprise return to management at Blackpool. He'd been out of work for 2 years. Remember, this is the guy who said when he was in charge at Newcastle, I don't know what Miguel Almiron does. Wanders into that roster. I don't know what he does. That didn't portend well for Steve Bruce and his tenure at Newcastle. Out of work for 2 years, or just not looking for work for 2 years. And now apparently Steve Bruce has returned to the touchline. 2-year deal to replace Neil Critchley, who was sacked on August 21st at Blackpool after losing the first 2 matches. So Steve Bruce, after Neil Critchley goes 0-2, Blackpool freaked out, fired him, and now Steve Bruce is back on a 2-year deal, and he was at West Brom until October of 22. That was his last gig. 8 months into an 18-month contract. And so then you end up with a couple of quotes. And here's the Independent refers to Steve Bruce as a vastly experienced manager. That's not wrong. Began his coaching career at Sheffield United in 1998. Managed more than 1,000 matches in English football across 11 previous clubs. I want to know, and this is, like I said, this is a very Walpassian question. I want to know who has the most stops in a managerial career. I mean, is it Big Sam? Is it Steve Bruce? I mean, I'm sure that they're top 5 at least. Here's the rundown. Sheffield United.
It got to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, they gotta be in that because if for no other reason, they're just mercenary
Uh-huh. Yeah.
managers.
It
Bielsa would
is.
be an interesting off the board candidate just because he never stays anywhere for more than 2 or 3 years. He's been doing
Right.
this since Jesus wore
Right.
sandals.
Most teams managed English football. Let me see if the Google machine will help me out
If
this
it's
one.
just English, then yeah, you can't. Bielsa wouldn't count. But like for English, yeah, it's probably one of those mercenary guys.
Yeah.
Or probably some guy in the 1950s
Yeah.
who we didn't know, who was just like basically the P.T. Barnum of coaching.
Yes. So it's Roy Hodgson, apparently. 16 football clubs, 5 international teams. So 16 plus 5 is 21. It looks like Roy Hodgson might be the leader in the clubhouse. Steve Bruce, by the way. Sheffield United, Huddersfield, Wigan, Crystal Palace, Birmingham City, Wigan again, Sunderland, Hull, Villa, Sheffield Wednesday. I don't know how the folks at Sheffield United thought about that. Newcastle, West Brom, and Blackpool. So that's in English football. Steve Bruce has bounced around for more than 1,000 matches. He had not been employed for like a year and a half. And so now he's back. And then you had Simon Sadler, who Simon Sadler is the owner of Blackpool. Simon Sadler, that to me sounds like a dime store villain. Simon Sadler, either a lawyer, like on Suits or something. He's like the attorney that gets beaten in a Perry Mason episode or Suits, or Simon Sadler is like the real estate mogul villain, in an episode of whatever crime drama that you want to get into. So Simon Sadler is the owner of Blackpool, and he had his 2 paragraphs worth of quotes too. But Steve Bruce is back. Steve Bruce is back, baby. Take that information at your own peril. But yeah, we think we've come to the conclusion that Roy Hodgson at 16 plus 5 might be the most managed clubs in Europe. So that will be intriguing to say the very least. Well, like I said, we got stuff, but probably the biggest news yesterday was Leicester avoiding a points deduction after winning a legal battle with the Prem. So Nix was a happy man. So the cheering that you heard yesterday in the Twitch pitch was Nix being very happy that they won last year in the championship. And their argument was that the charges by the Premier League could not be applied because they weren't in the Premier League when the accounting period ended. So they went to like the books. They're like, we weren't there yet. You can't charge us. And apparently the tribunal agreed with Leicester on the semantics of the deal. They are set to avoid a points deduction after winning against the Premier League. Won't be punished for an alleged breach of the PSR from the 22-23 season. Well, I mean, they weren't there. They weren't there at the time. They couldn't be applied because they'd already been relegated when the accounts were completed in June of 23. So it's like we were relegated. We were done, and it doesn't apply to us. And so Leicester was charged in March while they were still in the championship. So that was interesting. That seems like a bit of an overreach. You're not in the league, but we're going to charge you anyway. And they've effectively won their case after an independent commission agreed with the club's defense that the rules did not permit it. Leicester's appeal commission ruled that there was no jurisdiction for the case to be heard, and now Leicester won't be facing any sanctions. Premier League, I guess it was the Lion itself that was reached for comment as it was presented by the Telegraph. The Premier League said it was surprised and disappointed. I just had this Technicolor lion with a crown on its head sitting there and giving me this quote. Panel's decision confirmed it will now consider whether to make a subsequent appeal of its own, but insiders fear the risk of it failing could be too great considering the high bar threshold. The EFL is expected to review the decision after placing Leicester under a transfer embargo last year amid concerns over the club's 23-24 financial calculations. Remember, we talked about Everton and Nottingham Forest both getting hit with points deductions, and the glass or plate shattering in the kitchen you heard was probably either ropes or the airborne DJ Tom Russo. Now that we're talking about Everton, both hit with points deductions last year, believed that Leicester would also face punishment after the charge of breaching PSR. Then it was initially believed the appeal would fail, dragging into next year, but the verdict was released yesterday. Leicester also expected to avoid a further charge for the 23-24 season after agreeing that the £30 million sale of Kieran Dewsbury Hall to Chelsea and the $10 million in compensation from Chelsea for Enzo Maresca was before June 30 and the end of the financial year. And so Leicester came out with, a good 3 paragraphs. And then Leicester have drawn once and lost 2 league games since their return to the Premier League. So we figure it's going to be a long slog for them. But once again, wasting no time, Matt Hughes at The Guardian. Yeah, go ahead, Jared.
Anytime you go in 3 paragraphs, here's the thing. Here's the rule of thumb. If you have a statement to make and you have to pull out the Notes app and screenshot it, you need to rewrite it for brevity because you're going to talk yourself into problems.
Yes. And so you get to spin your way around and figure out what's going on. Leicester could face another points deduction battle this year since the club has to submit their accounts to the Prem by the end of the calendar year to establish whether they have breached PSR. The league, apparently, according to The Guardian, is going to apply a rule introduced last summer to investigate Leicester's finances at the earliest opportunity after expressing, quote, disappointment at Tuesday's judgment from the commission. 3-person appeal panel ruled about the idea of no jurisdiction. Leicester had been charged with a £24.4 million breach of PSR because, remember, in the championship, it's not 105 over 3 years. It's less. And so the blending of the leagues introduces where Nottingham Forest was coming from. It's like, well, we were here for part of that. We weren't here for all of it. So you can't charge us for the full 105 over a 3-year period. You can only lose 35 million on average or 105 over 3 years if you are in the Premier League. But if you're not in the Premier League, clubs like that are yo-yos, they'll sit there and go, well, we weren't there the entire time. We're not losing that much. And then we apply these kinds of things. See how confusing things are?
This is the same logic I used as a kid when, like, I couldn't have broken that. I wasn't here at the time.
Correct. Absolutely correct. And the Everton and Forest sanctions based on a tariff of the 3-point deduction for breaking the rules and 1 more point for each. £6.5 million, they were above the limit. And so, is the Premier League going to chase after it again? 3-year losses in June of 23 for Leicester, 129.4, which is over 105 last time I checked. But the Premier League remains to be convinced. Club's account showed pre-tax losses of 92.5 and 90 in successive years before the Premier League deductions for infrastructure spending. So all of this math, it's reduced by 22 million for each season a club has in the championship. So Leicester's permitted losses were 83 million instead of 105. So clubs competing in Europe, the limit is 70% in line with UEFA regulations, limited to a maximum of 85% of football revenues, net profit and loss. That's math down here. So,
and this is something that if y'all haven't got the chance, go listen to Jason's interview with Garth Lagerwey.
Yes.
And Dimitri. It's one of the things that it may have impacted this window, but it's going to start impacting even more windows going forward. But clubs are going to try and squeeze every dime out of everybody.
Absolutely.
Because there are more financial restrictions in Europe. You can't just YOLO this thing unless you're Manchester City, in which case apparently you can.
True.
Most clubs, will qualify most clubs are not going to be able to just YOLO this thing at an unsustainable loss and just be able to kick it down the road and keep kicking it down the road like it's the Saints salary cap.
Yes.
They do. But you're going to see more of this, I think, where it's going to be, hey, we're only permitted this much loss. So, like, hey, if we're gonna bring in somebody, then we need to sell somebody, and we're going to need to get every damn dime we can out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have to, like, negotiate hard for every dollar to make sure that we stay clear. So I'm sure this will impact, inevitably, all of the bottom lines for all of the clubs whenever you're dealing with them for, like, the next window and going forward until everyone figures out how to operate on a budget like a responsible, functioning human being.
No, we can't have that. It's got to be either deficit spending or shifting of funds from one place to another. And sitting there and being Gilbert Gottfried in Beverly Hills Cop with the parking ticket, and Axel and Rosewood trying to grill him. Alex has done the Lord's work this morning and has posted the link, as have you in other places, Jarrett, that the shiny new video is out involving Messi and friends and the new park. So
it looks like a 1990s Delta commercial that they used to do with India doing the music.
Absolutely.
It's the same aesthetic, same filter, the same vibes. The Herons are telling me about, like, this is back when Delta's slogan was like, "You'll love the way we fly."
Yes.
Yeah. This is the same energy. This is like Pure Moods 2 a.m. the Pure Moods compilation CD, if y'all remember those days.
Yes.
This is the same energy out of that video. Cool stadium. Weird vibes.
Yes. Well, cool stadium, weird vibes. And how much have you broken on that ground? Asking for a friend? You kind of plowed over some of the land where there's dirt, you know? So the countdown has now officially started for the Herons and Freedom Park. The countdown has officially started. And you do that with this 1990s Delta video. And it is literally, it's 45 seconds of them saying that it's going to be for the 26th season. So now the questions remain. Obviously, you're going to stay at the Erector set for the 25 season before migrating. See the word I chose there? Migrating. Before migrating to the Melreese facility in 26. So it is supposed to be 26,700 capacity. And you watch the video and you see the renderings, you see the herons flying over, like it's a season 5 Miami Vice episode or a Delta commercial. 131-acre development, 58-acre public park, youth athletic fields, retail attractions, restaurants, hotel accommodations, office space. Construction's underway, completed in stages beginning late 25, including the new stadium, public park roadway, parking infrastructure, additional entertainment, and hospitality concepts within the district. All of the pictures of alleged fans inside the alleged new building are very pink. You got a lot of folks wearing pink inside the artist's rendering of Freedom Park at 26,700. Second phase, anchor retail entertainment concepts, a curated selection of food and beverage options, according to Michelle Kaufman at the Miami Herald, coinciding with the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Third phase, including the launch of additional entertainment offerings. Leasing commercial partnership efforts underway to bring in partners. The Erector set currently seats 21,550. And so today, all around Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Key Biscayne, Dania, maybe, players and staff, they're all out today doing what Kaufman refers to as ventanita visits, stopping by Miami bars and restaurants in the evening. Fans are urged to wear pink. It's just basically what they are saying today is like, look, here's our new stadium. Here's the drawings. We're looking at 26. Wear pink and we'll come and see you. So this morning, starting 5 minutes ago, at a particular cafe and coin laundry, Messi and friends are covering the cost of your morning coffee for the first 100 guests to walk in the door at this particular location. I've never been to Mary's Cafe and Coin Laundry on Southwest 27th, but you go there. If any of you want to go, you can go there. If you're one of the first 100, you get your morning coffee paid for by Messi and friends. At 10:30, you can go from coffee to Little Havana. You go to a Chase Bank branch in Little Havana. If you're a Chase member, fans banking with Chase can get merch if you stop by this particular bank branch, Southwest 8th Street. Then, lunchtime, Apparently, they're going to surprise fans with some amazing giveaways, but they tell you the location of the amazing giveaways. So how much of a surprise actually is it? Then tonight, same location where they had where they're going to have the lunchtime giveaways in a location that's no longer a surprise. You're going to have football field visits. You're going to have a lot of different locations. 1, 2, 3, 4 locations where you can kind of play some pickup games. And then tonight at 1, 2, 3, 4 separate locations and bars in Wynwood and downtown, a limited edition Messi and Friends cocktail starting at only $10. First 500 fans at one of the locations will also be able to secure free drink tickets and more pink merch. Noah Allen, Leo Afonso, Cole Jensen, and Owen Finnerty and La Familia will be available at the same location where you could get your drink tickets and your pink merch. You can get all that taken care of, and you can hang out with Noah Allen, Leo Afonso, Cole Jensen, and Owen Finnerty, who are probably not household names in their own household. So you've got 4 locations there, and then so it is a day of celebration and wearing pink. Where is the lunch? Abby's asking. So according to Messi and Friends, the lunch, lunch is at Mary Brickell Village, 901 South Miami Ave, 33130. So Mary Brickell Village, where Messi and Friends say in the release, catch us around Mary Brickell Village as we surprise fans with some amazing giveaways. If it's in the Miami Herald, is it really a surprise? If you're telling folks that you're going to be there, is it a surprise? Are you surprising fans if you're telling them, hey, we're going to be there? Isn't it more of a surprise if you walk up to somebody on the street random and go, hey, here's some pink merch? You know? I'm just saying. Absolutely. So that's what all of the stuff yesterday that we were seeing involving Messi and Friends. They were like, okay, we're going to be in all these different locations. They had a map and everything. So they are celebrating. They're celebrating their pinkness today. David's wondering why we're buzz marketing why we're buzz marketing Messi and Friends buzz marketing. We are doing so. I mean, we're talking about it fairly tongue in cheek. Because buzz marketing really isn't buzz marketing if you're telling folks that you're buzz marketing. But anyway, well, what was going on, David, was they released the 45-second video of 2026 in Freedom Park. They released that this morning. After teasing stuff yesterday, they released the video that Freedom Park is going to be ready by 26. And so, being well past Wednesday, I went down a rabbit hole and started looking at things logically. So I guess that's my ish. So, yeah. So if you're anywhere in the Miami area today, you can get your cup of coffee paid for. You can go get some lunch, or you can go hang out with players 26 through. Well, no, Allen's not 26, but some of the players on the Messi and Friends roster. But yeah, this was strictly a tongue-in-cheek approach at their surprise marketing efforts. Now that their video is out for Freedom Park, so that's where we were. Morning, Dave. So let's see. So who's in this morning? Now that, like I said, we went off the rails pretty quick. Morning, Alex. Morning, Tommy. Morning, Abby. And let's see. Morning, Dave. Morning, David. So morning, Ropes. Morning, everybody. So yeah, that came across as a bit of a breaker that they released their 46-second video of, hey, Freedom Park in 26. And so we end up going down that rabbit hole. Okay. Other news this morning. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff overseas involving Premier League and all that. And there was one story also that made me kind of raise an eyebrow. And in hour number 2, we'll get into Major League Soccer. We'll go through the weekend. We'll get you set up for a quick weekend where some teams are actually playing this weekend. The announcer assignments came out yesterday. We'll go over those. But, yeah, we'll go over Major League Soccer and USL Super League and SEC in hour number 2, as we always do. But, yeah, there was a story that made me raise an eyebrow yesterday. It had to do with rugby, but it was carrying over to all sports involving concussion issues. And so I wanted to bring that into the table this morning. And then all the other stuff that's going on overseas. And like I said, if there's anything on your minds this morning, bring it to the table. And, breaking news. Wow. The Abstermobile is the Abstermobile today, no longer driving incognito. So huzzahs and hurrahs. Abstermobile is the Abstermobile today. Absolutely fantastic. It has been a long slog getting Abstermobile 2.0. Okay. Other stuff that was going on this morning that I was staring at and I was, raising an eyebrow to, involving other things. You got the idea of Everton, and I know once again that the screaming and the dropping of the utensils and the breaking of plates and glasses is probably Ropes and Tom Russo. So, Ropes, I apologize ahead of time. The Premier League, and this is from our friends at the Times. The Premier League, and this is their headline from Martin Ziegler. And if Martin Ziegler is on the byline, you're in trouble. Premier League can't force Everton to pick up full PSR legal bill. The Merseyside club is ordered to pay only a third of the £4.9 million costs, raising concerns that the league's bill for Manchester City's case could run into the tens of millions of dollars. So Martin Ziegler posted that. The Premier League failed. Here's Ziegler's copy. The Premier League failed in an attempt to make Everton. Premier League's 2 for 2 today. The Premier League failed in an attempt to make Everton pick up its full £4.9 million legal costs for last season's PSR case. I'm guessing it's a commission or similar to the commission that we talked about in the Leicester case. A commission and appeal board instead ruled that Everton should only pay $1.7 million, with the Premier League covering the remaining $3.2 for the PSR case, which resulted in Everton being deducted 10 points, reduced to 6 on appeal. Everton had challenged the league's costs, with their lawyer telling the appeal that the figures submitted were, quote, frankly eye-watering, end quote. Full findings of the cost appeal revealed in a judgment made back on July 5th, now available on the Premier League's website. So July 5th, so 60 days later. Okay. Meanwhile, Everton is still involved in another legal dispute with the Premier League over whether £6.6 million in interest payments relating to their new stadium can be taken out of the club's PSR calculations. If the club lose, that could lead, in theory, to another points deduction. The £4.9 million costs do not cover that case, nor the further 2-point deduction imposed in April. Details of the league's costs involved in a simple PSR case raise concerns about the bill it might be facing with the 115 alleged rule breaches with Manchester City and the against the associated party transaction rules. Legal experts told Ziegler, given the cost disclosed for Everton, cost of the Manchester City case will be many tens of millions of pounds. Appeal board judgment shows the Premier League paid its lawyers, Linklaters, a much higher fee than Everton paid theirs for similar work. Well, but I mean, that's about par for the course. I mean, some lawyers, that's the market and the lawyers that you choose. Everton claimed the costs sought as recoverable by the Premier League were, quote, both unexplained and inexplicable and, quote, grossly excessive, end quote. Club stated that the cost per witness statement, and this is something I didn't know you could break down, but they decided to. Cost per witness statement was more than 5 times higher for the league, almost £149,000 per witness statement, compared with the $26,600 for the club, and cost per document disclosed was 19 times higher. Document disclosed, almost £10,000 per document disclosed by the Premier League. For Everton, £515. The hourly rate charged by the Premier League lawyers of £940, nearly double the then guideline rate charged by Everton's lawyers, just over $500. appeal panel led by a retired judge ruled that the 1.7 was reasonable for Everton to pay rather than the 4.9. And the appeal board also directed the Premier League to pay Everton's $182,500 in cost of the appeal and $28,008 for the cost hearing. So basically, this panel basically told the Premier League, it's like, you know what, y'all? You spent entirely too much money, and it showed. So you had that much fun trying to push that case together, and it didn't work. So it's like, how'd that work for you? By the way, Chelsea, speaking of Chelsea netted, and this is something that I'm sure Chelsea fans would like to see more of, by the way. Chelsea got a net £6 million profit in a year on a winger who never played for them. That's the kind of money that you need to get. Angelo Gabriel, remember we were talking about everybody outbound from Chelsea? Angelo Gabriel sold to Al Nassr for £19 million. A year after signing from Santos, never making an appearance for the first team. Signed from Santos for £13 million, sold to Al Nassr for $19. The Saudi window, by the way, closed Monday night. Last season on loan at Strasbourg, 11 starts, 10 substitute appearances, didn't score. Played in preseason matches against Fulham and Brighton. As with all transfers over £1 million, the deal will be assessed by the Premier League to see if it is of fair market value. I would imagine that since Chelsea dealt outside the league, and with what's going on with the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote, that likes to just throw money at a problem, Chelsea throws money at a problem to bring in everything from the Sharper Image catalog so they have it all. The league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote wants to just throw money out there anyway. So it's like Chelsea wants all of the puzzle pieces. They want all of the pieces on the table. They just sit there and it's like, ooh, and, they bring everything in to their side of the table. And the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote was like, yeah, we'll pay you whatever. Literally, you could probably call them up. It's like, hey, hey, bro, we got like this dude. And could you imagine this conversation that Chelsea and Al Nassr are having about Angelo Gabriel? Chelsea's like, well, he played last season in France. 21 appearances, didn't score. Yeah, we think that, hey, he was great in Brazil, trained with us, did some time with us in the preseason. We think there's a lot of promise there. Okay, $19 million. Okay. Yeah, I just have this vision of the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote on the other end of the line. Sure, okay, great, sounds fine. We want him. If you thought that Bowley Clear Lake was the group that went into Sharper Image and just basically wanted everything on the table, and it's like, yep, I want the vibrating chair. Yep, I want this, I want this, I want this. I want the radio-operated helicopter. I want the drone. I want the vibrating easy chair. I want the lava lamp that has like the 5 different sections to it, and you get to see all the bubbles go through each of the sections. It looks like a radiator. I want the $500 cooling jacket. I mean, that's Bowley Clear Lake shopping. They go into Sharper Image, it's like, yep, we'll take the whole thing. The league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote, it's like, okay, yeah, hold my beer. So Chelsea pays £13 million for Angelo Gabriel. Doesn't play a lick in the Premier League. They call up the Saudi pro. Al Nassr picks up the phone. Yeah, what do you want? Oh, Angelo Gabriel. Yeah, we heard of him. How much? Yeah, sure. How about $19 million? Hey, that'll work. Okay, make the paperwork. Click. That's like the literally that you call that. That's the guy that in your like in your fantasy football league, he's just like throwing stuff at the wall and calling it art. Literally, he's taking the spaghetti and he's going up against the wall, calls it art. That's the guy in your fantasy football league that will make a deal if I'll trade you, I'll trade you Dallas Goedert and Taysom Hill, and you can have my starting quarterback. Literally, that's what the Saudi Pro League is to me, at this point anyway. So the Angelo Gabriel deal netted Chelsea £6 million. Makes you wonder what else is in play. Tell you what, we'll pay you 19 now for Angelo Gabriel to get him off your books. But we'll talk down the road. Like, you remember Stingray with Nick Mancuso? It's like, one day I'll call you for a favor and you'll grant it. That's what I think we're staring at here in this situation. One day I'll call you for a favor. If I take Angelo Gabriel off your hands, I'll call you one day, and we'll work something out. I think that's where we are with this, but that's just me. Several transfers from Chelsea to Saudi clubs in the past 2 years, which have helped them to meet financial limits, according to our friends at the Times and Martin Ziegler. But the Premier League has received assurances that the Saudi PIF has no involvement with the ownership of the London club. That's Ziegler's wording. Premier League sought the assurances after it emerged that the PIF has hundreds of millions of pounds of investments managed by Clearlake Capital. Ding, ding, ding. One of these days, we'll call you up. We need a favor. You'll grant it. I always say Boley Clearlake because that's who it is. Clearlake Capital is the private equity firm that owns the majority stake. Angelo's departure is the fourth transfer from Chelsea to Saudi clubs in a little more than a year. Koulibaly to Al Hilal for £34 million. Mendy to Al Ahly for 16. N'Golo Kante to Al Ittihad as a free agent. And now Angelo Gabriel for 19 when Chelsea paid 13. Keep all this in mind. Income from the move means Chelsea will have earned about £175 million from sales in the summer transfer window, spent just over $200 million, much of which can be spread over 5 years when it comes to calculations of profit and sustainability rules. In March, it was reported by the Telegraph that Todd Boehly made a visit to Saudi Arabia to meet the country's sports minister and director of football for the Saudi Pro League, Michael Emenalo. Chelsea confirmed the transfer of Angelo Gabriel on their website with a sentence. I'll call you up one day, ask you for a favor, and you'll grant it. Just saying. Just saying. Keep an ear out for all those kinds of things going down the road. Looks like Casemiro might head to Galatasaray after what happened in the Liverpool match. The screaming that you heard was Drew Dickinson, who is going to be part and parcel to the future. What happens with Casemiro? We haven't had a 3D yet this season. I think we had one leading into the year. But we will end up with everything that will be interesting with Manchester United. There's also talk about Mats Hummels, and it looks like, courtesy of our friends with all of the stuff in place, that what's going on with Manchester United? And keep an eye on that too. Is everybody happy for now? Erik ten Hag's getting that vote of confidence? Maybe, perhaps, possibly, probably. So keep an eye on what's going on. But yeah, the screaming that you hear or heard was what's going on with Manchester United. Dylan Butler, by the way, is the busiest man in the Northeast for a reason. Might be able to join us at 10 o'clock, but Maybe not. We'll see. Luis Suarez, by the way, out of international competition. He's finally issued his retirement on that. So keep an eye on the future of. I'm still waiting. I'm one of those folks that's like I didn't think that Luis Suarez's knee would be able to handle the rigors and the wear and tear of everything with Major League Soccer, but so far he has. I give him full credit. I give the front office and the physios a boatload of credit for managing Luis Suarez the way that they have. So, you keep an eye on Luis Suarez, you keep an eye on Messi and friends, you keep an eye on all that stuff. So it's been very interesting. Very, very interesting to see how Luis Suarez has survived his season at Inter Miami as well. And he's picked up the slack for Messi with Messi being out. He's been that guy. Which reminds me, with the league, we'll transition to Major League Soccer coming up in a couple of minutes. Set your fantasy team, set your fantasy team, set your fantasy teams because once again, it's a week where folks are playing. Not everybody's playing, but folks are playing enough. Folks are playing enough where you get to finish, and this might be a week where you get to catch up with some folks. Where you might be able to catch up with folks, that's always a good thing, especially in fantasy. Traditionally, for me, it has been one of those where you're kind of like, I'm okay. I'm not great in fantasy, but I'm okay. So it's very, very interesting. Morning, Harry. Yes, Ropes, it is a Godfather deal. I think it is. I think that stuff involving Bowley Clear Lake and the PIF, it is a Godfather deal. I think so. Yeah, like I said, first thing that popped into my head was Stingray with Nick Mancuso from NBC back in the 80s. One day I'll ask you for a favor and you'll grant it. But this could be the offer that you can't refuse. It might be that. Clear Lake Capital and then Bowley Clear Lake and the PIF. Yeah. I mean, there's enough plausible deniability there. The Saudi pro can sit there and say, it was just, it's what we thought. We thought we see value there. And so we decided to invest that kind of value. Morning, Harry. David, in discussing the cost per document. Yes, the top of the line Xerox machine, full color copies. Absolutely true. That is absolutely true. So that will be very, yeah, you only have to pay a third because the fact that the Premier League decided to pay $9 gazillion in their own legal fees, that's on them. All right. We got to hit a breaker, and this is a big breaker. So hang on just a second. Here we go. Let's see if we can find it. Can I hit it in time? And we'll get to the breaking news here, and we're going to go long cut. Posted on the Atlanta United website. Atlanta United parts ways with VP and Technical Director Carlos Bocanegra. I'm going to read the release as of 2 minutes ago. Atlanta United announced parted ways with VP and Technical Director Carlos Bocanegra effective immediately. President and CEO Garth Lagerwey will assume Bocanegra's duties on an interim basis for the remainder of the 24 season. Lagerwey, quote, deeply appreciative of Carlos's dedication and success over the last 9 years with Atlanta United. I believe it's time for our club to move in a new direction. Well, so much for having the continued cut for music. So let me go ahead and hit it again and have it be low enough. While we continue to fight for a playoff spot down the final stretch of the season, this gives us a clean slate and a runway to properly assess all vacancies in our sporting operation ahead of what will be an extremely important offseason for our club, end quote. Bocanegra originally joined the club as technical director in 2015, oversaw roster construction since the inaugural season during the club's historic 2017 season, in which it became just the second expansion team to reach MLS Cup playoffs on its debut since 1999. Bocanegra assembled a team that at the time finished tied for fifth all-time in goals scored in a single season, fourth all-time in goal difference. Bocanegra then promoted to VP in October 2017. Club followed its historic expansion season by winning MLS Cup in 2018, finishing with 69 points at the time, the second most in MLS history. Over Bocanegra's 7+ seasons in charge, the club won 3 trophies, including 2018 MLS Cup, 2019 Campeones Cup, 2019 U.S. Open Cup. In addition, 5 different players named to MLS Best 11 9 different times, the most of any club since 2017. Also, during Bocanegra's time, the club had 3 players won MLS Newcomer of the Year, 2 players won MLS Young Player of the Year, which used to be Rookie of the Year, and 1 player, Joseph Martinez, won the Landon Donovan MVP Award. Club is currently conducting its search to fill the head coach vacancy. However, there is no timetable for filling that role. The search for the club's next technical director will begin immediately. Statement from Arthur Blank. I want to personally thank Carlos for his many contributions to the success of Atlanta United on and off the pitch. He was here from the beginning and deserves much credit for our MLS championship, other trophies we've won over the last 9 years, and the way our team captured the heart of this city even before we launched in 2017. Several dynamic players signed by Carlos have been foundational to our success, including some who've moved on to opportunities in elite leagues and clubs across the world. I will always have great affection for Carlos and his beautiful family and deep gratitude for the passion and dedication he brought to our club over the years. I wish him all the best in his future endeavors. Atlanta United parting ways with VP and Technical Director Carlos Bocanegra this morning. And obviously, we will follow that story as it goes today and all the other days. But now the search continues for not just a head coach, but for now a VP and a technical director. Garth Lagerwey is going to be assuming the role in the interim. And this is going to be, if we thought that this was going to be an interesting offseason in trying to find a coach, you now add to that finding a very key individual in the front office. So now you have, and the questions go. Do you now split up? And this is just questions. This is not anything having to do with the future of the club from any inside intel or anything like that. Do you split up the role? Do you have a VP? Do you have a TD? Do you have a vice president and a technical director? Is the individual that you bring in going to have both of those roles? So that would be the question going forward. So you're looking for a coach, you're looking for a vice president, technical director, or you're looking for a vice president and a technical director. That will be an interesting development of part of this as well. So for Garth, as president and CEO, he is tasked, along with the individuals that will be a part of the group that will be deciding these individuals, either 2 or 3. Like I said, I'm taking the titles themselves as separate. This will be a different. This is going to be the search of all searches, and I mean this with like capital letters. This is capital letters and everything. This is going to be the search of searches. Parting ways with Carlos Bocanegra, vice president and technical director. Garth Lagerwey assuming Bocanegra's duties on an interim basis for the remainder of the 24 season. So this is now officially the search of all searches. You are looking for that individual, and you are looking for a head coach. So Garth Lagerwey has in his mind the path that Atlanta United should take as a club. Garth and other individuals will be overseeing, you would imagine, the search for both, if not all three individuals. Like I said, if you separate vice president, technical director, head coach, if you take the three titles and separate them, could be two individuals, could be three. Could be an individual that you discuss the front office opening with that wants both of the titles. But that's going to be a part of this discussion. Is it going to be two individuals, or is it going to be three individuals? But this is the search of all searches now. You have an interim head coach in Rob Valentino, and now you've parted ways with your vice president and technical director. Garth Lagerwey has a thought process in mind of what he's looking for in those individuals. And so now, for the remainder of this season, if you thought that when it came to, once Gonzalo Pineda was relieved of his duties, if you thought everyone was auditioning then for the future, you really think they're auditioning now, because you now will be having an individual in the front office that will have a philosophy in mind in line with Garth Lagerwey. And then you will have a head coach who is in line with the vice president, technical director, and Garth Lagerwey. So president, CEO, vice president, technical director. Those folks in line. Then those folks will be determining, and this is me thinking out loud, that when you have a front office opening and a head coach opening, that you will have the front office opening filled after conversations and developments and discussions with the front office in place now. That vice president, technical director will be in line with Garth Lagerwey. And so then you will have those conversations to determine who will be the next head coach at Atlanta United. What head coach will want to be working with the vice president, technical director, and the president and the CEO. And so now the path is adding a step. But once again, it's that front office opening, vice president, technical director, to be paired with the president and the CEO. Those discussions happen. Then you determine the philosophy of what you're looking for a head coach. And now it's not, and now the discussion is not with Garth and with Carlos. It is with Garth and a new vice president, technical director. What is the pathway? What do we need to do? What do we need to do? How do we go forward? And what kind of a head coach do we bring in? So that is where we are with the parting ways with Atlanta United and Carlos Bocanegra as vice president, technical director. He's here 9 years. And we went through all of the accomplishments of that front office that Carlos was a part of. Player accomplishments, team accomplishments. But now Atlanta United is looking for a vice president, technical director, and a head coach. So there's going to be a lot of thought and a lot of work put in by Garth Lagerwey now as president and CEO in trying to find that individual, capital T, capital I, that individual that is going to check off all of the boxes down the line. And Garth, obviously, in his mind, has the kind of individual that he's looking for. I'm sure that he has a short list, dream list is A, B, C, D, and E. Or he has a dream list, and in addition to the personality traits, the business traits that are in line with what Garth wants to do with this organization. So, like I said, if you thought that the offseason was going to be busy, as old JR says, business just picked up. And once again, we discuss all of this. All of this. The 9 players that are a part of the discussion. And like I said, and this is taking every element in all of this and going forward. I know that Ricky mentioned that no one is safe. Let me go through the early thoughts here on the Twitch pitch. But yeah, David, whoa is right from Derek. And Derek, once again, thanks again for re-upping. And David, yeah, and we see this in other sports. If you're getting a new coach, probably better to get a new TD first, because you want to have the front office with that philosophy. Okay, this is who we are, this is what we're looking for, and then the GM and the president and CEO, the technical director, the GM and the technical director, and the president and the CEO in line philosophically, then they are both looking for that next individual. And no, this was not Ricky. This was not seen today. No. Morning, Will. Morning, Ricky. Morning, Derek. I'm trying to see if I've missed anybody in the hellos this morning as we go. Considering the breaking news, Carlos Bocanegra, Atlanta United have parted ways, and so Garth Lagerwey is now in charge and is assuming those duties in the interim as the search starts for the new vice president and technical director, or vice president and technical director. We'll find out more. Doug Robertson of the AJC has mentioned that there is an opportunity with Garth Lagerwey this afternoon at 2:00, and we may we may come out in the afternoon with a reaction from that. So keep your notifications. Yeah, don't be surprised if we end up with a special power hour this afternoon and have reaction and discussion after this. So 2:00 this afternoon, we'll get more answers to what's going on. But here's how things lay out. And this is, we've discussed, and thank you, Ricky. So we've discussed players and contracts and availability. So we'll take this a step at a time. We've discussed now, once again, so vice president, technical director, president, CEO. That individual gets hired by Garth and the remainder of the rest of the front office that's currently in place. Then the philosophy that is there with the new vice president, technical director, or vice president and technical director, and the president and CEO, Garth Lagerwey, then they get together and they're like, okay, we are of like mind. We are looking for these individuals when it comes to head coach. And so that will be a discussion. And once again, that's going to be a heavy discussion. If you thought, once again, that one discussion about finding a head coach was going to be heavy, you've now got head coach and key front office position, vice president, technical director, or vice president and technical director. Contract statuses, the end of the calendar year. Brad Dax, who has announced short of an MLS Cup, he's retiring. Jamal, Daniel Rios, who I believe has outperformed his contract. Ronald Hernandez, and I know that we will all, some of us, and I know that Bart is one of these individuals, but we will all respectfully, I'm sure that we will respectfully disagree on Ronald Hernandez. Nick Firmino is a question. Efren Morales is a question. Tyler Wolff, his contract is out at the end of 24. Jay Fortune, his contract is up at the end of 24. But that better be one of the first things you do. At the end of 25, Westberg, Derek Williams, Shonda Silva, Luis Abram, Brooks Lennon, Josh Cohen, Matthew Edwards coming up from the first. That's your 25s. 26, Saba, William Ba, Amador, Mosqueda, Noah Cobb. 27s, Gregerson, Miranchuk, Luke Brennan, Aiden Torres, Bart Sleesh is a 28. So that is the contract decisions. The contract decisions for the individuals that will be in the front office, or the individual that will be in the front office accompanying Garth Lagerwey on the walk forward. Since Vice President and Technical Director Carlos Bocanegra and Atlanta United have parted ways effective immediately. Garth taking over interim basis for the remainder of the 24 season. You have the matches remaining, navigating the Eastern Conference, and we were going to be discussing the Eastern Conference with all of the machinations that are there. Get into let's go ahead and get to the conference just as a reminder heading into this half weekend, because you have you've got 6 matchups this weekend to kind of help things out when it comes to the schedule. Excuse me, the schedule in and of itself in Major League Soccer. Everything kicks back in with Atlanta and Nashville on the 14th, at least here locally, this weekend. Everything's on season pass. Columbus, Seattle, New England, St. Louis, Red Bulls, Sporting Kansas City, Chicago, DC, Houston, LAFC, Vancouver, Dallas. As I said, fix your fantasy teams appropriately. So you've got 6 matches this weekend. Eastern Conference. Miami in at 59 points. Cincinnati at 51, 27 matches played. Columbus 2 matches in hand. They make up one of those this weekend. 49 points. They win out there at 55. They're in second. Red Bulls 27 matches played, 42 points. NYCFC at 39, and this is group number 2. I guess group number 2 starts technically with Red Bulls in 4th. NYCFC at 39, Charlotte 38, Orlando 37. All of those have 27 matches played. Toronto, 28 matches played. They played the most of any team in the Eastern Conference. 28 matches played, 33 points. Atlanta has a match in hand. With a win next time out and a lack of activity from Toronto, Atlanta could get to the 8. And then they would be, in theory, 3 points behind Orlando, same number of matches played. Fun begins behind Atlanta. Once again, 7 teams separated by 5 points if you include Atlanta in the 9. Everybody's played 27 matches except for New England. New England has 2 matches in hand. Atlanta's at 31. They're in. They're at the 9. It would be at Toronto if the playoffs started today. Philadelphia below the playoff bar at 30. DC at 29. Montreal at 27. Revs at 26 points. 2 more wins than Chicago and Nashville. Chicago and Nashville had the same record. Chicago has a better goal difference by 3. Bottom 7 teams separated by 5 points. That's what you're staring at if you are looking at Atlanta United for the remainder of this run-in that we're talking about, where now Garth Lagerwey, as president and CEO, will be analyzing everything. I mentioned the players whose contracts end at the end of the 24 calendar year on purpose. I went through the rest of the roster on purpose, because now you're looking at, okay, I look at my 24s. What are my 24s? When it comes to my 24s, who am I looking at as possibly being around for the future? All of that is a part of this too. The 24s, the 25s, all of that. If you thought you were playing for a job when Gonzalo Pineda was relieved of duties, you're really playing for it now. With the parting of ways of Carlos Bocanegra this morning, about 20 minutes ago, announced by Atlanta United. So this will be intriguing for a bunch of different reasons. Players are now playing for their jobs, either here or someplace else. You want to stay here if you wouldn't want to be considered for the future of Atlanta United with the different hierarchy that will be there for it. New front office, vice president, technical director, new head coach. That's what you're staring at right now. Like I said, if you thought that you were playing for your future when the coach was relieved, now you have a president and CEO and the relieving of duties of the vice president and technical director. So you are playing for your future. And two of the top three positions involving day-to-day operations of Atlanta United are open. You have an interim head coach, and you have the president and CEO taking over on an interim basis the vice president and technical director duties. So that is where Atlanta United is right now. We mentioned the players and their contracts. We mentioned the Eastern Conference and where things stand. You have this off week. Then you're getting ready for the run-in. The match is at home. You really need to make sure that you take care of business. Atlanta United this season on the road, 3-7-4. Don't misunderstand, though. Right now, of the 9 clubs that would make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, more than half of them have under 500 records on the road. Red Bulls are in 4th. They are 3-4-7 away from home this year. Same number of wins as Atlanta United. And once again, we've always mentioned how tough the Eastern Conference is. Red Bulls below 500 on the road. NYCFC and Atlanta United, by the way, have the same road record, 3-7-4. Charlotte's below 500 on the road at 4-6-3. Toronto's below 500 on the road at 4-8-3. Atlanta 500 at home, 5-5-3, and that's the difference. 2 wins would be 6 points, and that would put you basically in 7th, fighting for everything up to 4th. You get a couple of wins here and there. The top 4 teams, 3 of the top 4 teams have 7 wins at home. So let's just say, for the sake of example, since you have the same record as NYC, and NYC at home is 8-3-2. You have the same record as, say, the 2, the 3, and the 4. 2 wins, 6 points. That puts you at 37 points, and that puts you right in the thick of things at 5-6-7. But that's where you are right now. 5 teams in the Eastern Conference have below 500 road records. You got to take care of business at home. We mentioned the run-in and how goofy it's going to be. Nashville's here in 10 days. Then you get that midweek with Messi and friends. Then you go to Red Bulls on the 21st. Then after that, you get a week off. Then you go to Philly. Then Montreal starts your October. And Montreal is the Forrest Gump box of chocolates, but when they give up goals in bunches. That should be one that you should take care of. Red Bulls coming to town 3 days later. You get another break, and then you have the purple team coming to town, or you go to the purple team on the last day of the regular season on the 19th of October to figure out where things stand. So you end up with 3 matches in a week to start things off. 2 of them at home, which should get you off to a good jump start. Then you get a week. then you go to Philly. Then you turn around and come home for 2 more matches in a week. So 3 matches in a week to start things off. Then 3 matches in a week before you get a week off, before you go to Orlando. That's your run-in. That's your run-in if you're Atlanta United. So you have that in play as the 9, chasing after the 8 and possibly the 7, because Orlando, as we always know, seems to do the slow fade this time of year. So you have players across the board who now have this piece of information that came out at 10 o'clock this morning added to the dynamic that was in place after Gonzalo Pineda was relieved of his duties. Head coach relieved of his duties, and now you have the vice president, technical director relieved of his duties. Once again, Garth Lagerwey, president and CEO, taking the vice president and technical director duties on an interim basis. Ricky, a watershed moment? You're not kidding. It is a watershed moment. David says, what's going to happen when Arthur poaches Mauricio Pochettino for the roles? Bart will have something to talk about. And so Emilio says, it follows the plan. It follows the succession plan. No success with rosters manager, still a struggle, then you go to the next step. Yeah, Ricky, nobody's safe. Absolutely true. Ricky says, honestly, kind of shocked he got quote-unquote fired at this point and didn't just get to walk. Semantics don't really matter. It's just interesting. Abby did post the link to the article that we did read and let everybody know what Arthur said about the matter and what happened in Carlos's tenure. Abby says it'll make the quarterly meeting with Garth that much more interesting. Yeah, you're not kidding, Abby. It will. Absolutely it will. And so right now, a lot of you in the Twitch Pitch timeline are thinking that Carlos will slide over to the national team and be a part of that growth process. And the fact that, that it is here. There would not have to be a change of address kit filed with the United States Postal Service or anything. So you've got and Ropes. That's an interesting question. Has Atlanta United ever had a home game on decision day? Four card, the presser. It is an opportunity for the press to catch up with Garth. I don't know if it's meant to be public or not. If it is, then it would be posted to the Atlanta United YouTube channel. I have not heard anything about it being live, a live Q&A with the Atlanta media. But I do know that it's set for 2 o'clock, according to Doug Robertson of the AJC. So that's what we are. That's what we are looking at. And so it says just addressing the media today via Zoom. So that's what we know involving the activity with Vice President with President CEO Garth Lagerwey. So we know that it is with media via Zoom at 2 o'clock. Do not know anything about any kind of simulcast, so the 17s can watch and the rest of the planet can watch. Don't know of anything about that. But like I said, keep an eye out on social media for Atlanta United. And if that does in fact happen where it is a simulcast, then you'll know through social media. Otherwise, it will be just a getting together of Garth and the assembled media for the 2 o'clock opportunity to find out what is next and what is on Garth's mind this afternoon when he gets to discuss with the assembled media the Carlos Bocanegra and Atlanta United parting of ways after 9 years. Also on, once again, what you guys are discussing. So ropes. I was going to answer this question. Has Atlanta United ever had a home game on decision day? All right, let's workshop this. So if we go to, let's see if we go to the Wikipedias. So Abby says, been a long time. Don't think since 2017. 2019 versus New England. 2017 and 2019. So Abby is beating me to it, as you well should. Far faster on social media than I am. So 2017 versus Toronto and 2019 as well. So it looks like, all right, so 2017 Atlanta United season. And you slide down to the bottom. Yeah, so 2017, draw against Toronto at home. Now, let's see if we can go. I could go in different directions. What is the button? And like I said, I'm trying to hit this and go live at the same time with everything. So sliding down to the bottom. And there's got to be a way to advance everything. There's got to be a way to advance it and just sit there and go, just go one more click at a time. 95 references and all this kind of stuff. So let's go with 2017 and 2019. Jarrett dropping back in. So
pertinent.
Officially official.
Yeah.
The parting of the ways with Atlanta United and Carlos Bocanegra, Vice President and Technical Director. It is going to be a meeting via Zoom with assembled media, 2:00 this afternoon. We might come on later this afternoon with a bit of a post-analysis, so it might be a bit of a power hour after Garth has the discussion with the assembled media, but you thought your job was on the line now. If you were a player for Atlanta United, your job is really on the line now, considering that Garth is now taking over Vice President and Technical Director. There's going to be a new VPTD. Could be one guy, could be two, could be one individual, could be two, and a head coach. And so this is like the search of searches, capital S, the search of searches now for a VP/TD or two individuals and a head coach going forward.
Yeah, man.
Didn't have this on a wall past Wednesday.
No, we didn't have this on the bingo card. I think Carlos's deal was through this year or next year.
I think so. Yeah.
I personally expected that to run out and for him not to be renewed.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly didn't expect that today. Dude. Well, here's the thing. Everybody got their wish. Now we got to see what they do after this.
Yep.
I know Carlos has had his head called for many times by many people. Everyone got their wish. Let's see what happens.
Yep.
Because you had the very weird window this go around where you got a lot of comments about possible moves and a lot of swagger talk that didn't really result in anything. So it kind of felt, even though you got stuff done, it kind of felt hollow. And I'm very interested by the timing. Was this we needed to knock this window out of the park?
Yep.
And we couldn't, so this is a consequence of it? Or, I don't know. It's just that's my question because of the timing of the decision. Mm-hmm. Now you have even more positions to fill, and it really is the end. Like, for better or worse, it is the end of an era.
Yep, it is.
Club.
Yep.
Because Darren Eales is gone. Now Carlos is gone. Brad Guzan's the only guy left from 2017,
mm-hmm.
which feels like, an age ago.
Yeah, I mean, it is 8 years ago in roster talk.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the comms department is mostly the same that we've dealt with. But that's about it, man. Like, yeah. It is the full-on end of an era and changing the guard for Atlanta United. Mm-hmm. But I hope Carlos does land on his feet. I know there's been criticisms about the deals that they've done about contracts they've done, situations they've been in financially.
Yeah.
I like Carlos as a guy, though. He's not, through my experience, not a guy to get out front and talk a lot. Like, he is a bit more introverted from my experience.
Right.
It was always very pleasant, very cordial, and always came across like a very decent guy. So I hope he lands on his feet somewhere in a role where he can succeed doing whatever it is he wants to do next. But you're right. Now, we had already had our brains set of manager is the next spot that you're hiring for this club. So now, it's manager and technical director. Who do you go get?
Right. And do you get one or two? Is it going to be
and
one of those that whole way?
I don't want it to be personally. I don't want to be in a situation like a Peter Vermes, where the technical director and the manager are the same guy, and you lack that oversight. I know it can work in some situations. I don't really want that. I don't really want that here. I want there to be checks and balances within the system.
Right.
That is my preferred way of doing things. Carlos, very, very much family man. Was very chill, very cordial. But in the similar vein of Gonzalo Pineda, it's a results-based business.
It is. Absolutely.
And if they went into this window and said, hey, we need to knock this window out of the park, and we didn't knock it out of the park, therefore the results were not there, then the results were not there. But I will say the same thing about him that I said about Gonzalo, is that I hope they find happiness and success wherever they go next, because as individuals, they always did right by me.
Yep.
Always very cordial, very kind. But when it's time, and someone says it's time, then someone says it's time.
Yep.
And this is a very much a, you make the change and you go into an entirely new era, and you have completely shifted everything. Cards are not even on the table at this point. The cards are in the shuffler. Like, we're about to get dealt a new hand.
And Garth's the dealer.
Yeah.
Garth's at the shoe.
And this is a thing, man, that I felt like got kind of caught up and confused in the last year and a half, 2 years. When Garth was in Seattle, he was acting in that technical director role that Carlos had here. Whereas here he is in more of that presidential Darren Eales role.
Right.
Personally, I always saw it. This was Garth's chance to step into an even bigger role and make his mark in a bigger way. Yes, he'll have some oversight on things, like the final say of yes or no. But he wasn't acting as technical director here. He is acting as the club president and CEO.
Right.
It's a bigger role. So don't think of it strictly as technical director, although I'm sure he will take that role in action right now. But I wonder how quickly you get everything done.
Yeah.
I still think you'll get Rob's name dropped in consideration for the managerial job, if for no other reason. He is the interim right now, and he has been a fantastic steward for the club. And we don't always see these things on the public eye.
Right.
Like the guys who do the work behind the scenes, who's been part of multiple coaching staffs here and thought well enough of, by multiple coaches, to keep on staff. Like Heinze thought highly enough of him to keep him on. Gonzalo Pineda kept him on. I think part of it, I don't know for sure, part of it I feel like was I want to keep some of the continuity and some of the good vibes that we had. And we don't want to just change everything for the sake of changing everything. But now you're in a mode where you are going to be making big changes. Even more than you thought before. How quickly can you get that done? How quickly can you get manager done? How much consideration does Rob actually get outside of lip service? Because like I've said before, for me, Rob Rob's not coaching just for his job here. Rob's building a resume for the future elsewhere.
Correct.
He might not stick in Atlanta, man. Like, I think your aspirations are bigger. And I don't mean that as a shot at Rob, because I think Rob has some very good ideas. The RSL game, the first half of that RSL game was freaking brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you give up a goal in the second minute, and then you had RSL on the ropes for 45 minutes. Your midfield and your set piece defending let you down in that game. Tristan William-Ba, Bartosz Szlisz, those guys let you down in that game on set pieces, and they flipped the script on that game. You nailed the tactics in the first 45.
Yep.
I think he has great ideas. I think the club is going to go bigger in ambition and name and scope, though.
Yep.
But I think Rob is coaching for his career, whether it's here or elsewhere. And I'd like to think he's doing a good job of putting together a resume with, hey, look, sometimes you miss tactically and you adjust. But I think he's putting it together for a life after Atlanta. And that's fine. I hope he gets that shot, because we've seen it work for guys. We've seen now Stephen Glass go to Aberdeen, fail. Aberdeen's kind of in that Crystal Palace thing where we're like, no one after Derek McInnes has succeeded at Aberdeen.
Nope.
Aberdeen has deeper seated issues than manager.
Mm-hmm.
He's gone to Memphis, and a Memphis team that's not spending as much as some of the other teams in USL, and he's holding his own. He's finding his success there.
Yep.
I think Gonzalo Pineda will find his success after Atlanta United. I think Rob Valentino will find his success after Atlanta United.
Yeah. Question was posed to the floor, and I was trying to do some cursory examination. Emilio wants to know, how are the successful teams in Major League Soccer set up regarding vice presidents and technical directors? Is it the same person or is it a split? It is, for the most part, and like I said, this is just me trying to check teams above Atlanta United. For the most part, it's split. Examples. With Messi and friends right now, you have a president of football operations in Raul Sanlehi. Then Chris Henderson is the chief soccer officer and sporting director. So Chris Henderson handles the soccer side. Sanlehi handles the business side. And you can literally look at their pictures and tell the difference, because Sanlehi is in blazer and tie and Chris Henderson is in the quarter zip pullover pink with the logo. So you can tell that Sanlehi is the guy that looks at numbers. And
by the way, you're going to be competing with Columbus on some of these things, because remember, Columbus just had an upheaval in their front office too.
Yep. So you've got
also, I'm still waiting. Someone from Europe has to come and throw a bunch of money at Wilfred Nancy. Not because I want Wilfred Nancy out of MLS. I adore Wilfred Nancy. Wilfred Nancy deserves a bigger stage.
Absolutely. Absolutely, he does.
Now, whether or not he takes it is his decision. I'll respect any decision he makes. Wilfred Nancy deserves a bigger stage. He deserves somebody to come to him and offer him a bigger stage to put on this spectacle he is putting on up there in Columbus, Ohio.
Yep.
Anyway, sorry.
No worries. So Messi and friends has Raul Sanlehi, suit and tie, Chris Henderson, quarter zip pullover. Columbus has a general manager, an Issa Tall. They have a president of business operations in Joshua Glessing, and then they have the ownership group that's Haslam's and Johnson's and Dr. Pete. So you have a technical director in Mark Nichols. You have a VP of soccer admin and operations in Jamie McMillan, an analytics director in Alex Missiv, and a director of soccer operations in Julio Velasquez. So Columbus has split the title up. Yeah. Cincy has a general manager in Chris Albright and a director of soccer strategy in Kyle McCarthy.
Sorry, Rich.
Yes. LAFC.
Well, again, we say sorry, Rich, because Cincinnati is doing Philadelphia, but with money.
Yeah.
Which I know Philadelphia is like the canon villain here for a lot of people, and Jim Curtin, canon villain for a lot of people.
Yes.
Philadelphia Union fans have been through a lot over the years. A lot. and they turn out to a really nice stadium a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And they deserve an ownership group that is going to reward that dedication with an investment.
Yep.
And they're not getting it consistently.
No, they're not.
Anyway, yep.
LAFC is split. John Thorrington is a co-president and general manager. Neil McGuinness is the technical director. And then you get into assistant coaches and such. Since you mentioned Philadelphia, we'll go there. Ownership and front office, as it loads here in my computer and takes its own damn sweet time to do so. Yes, and I'm accepting and continuing cookies. All right, so you have Jay Sugarman, chairman, principal owner, VP alternate governor Richard Leibovitz. You've got a bunch of investors. You have a sporting director in Ernst Tanner and EVP, chief operating officer, chief revenue officer, senior VP marketing, VP general counsel, senior director administration. So you have a sporting director in Ernst Tanner and a head coach in Jim Curtin, assistant coaches, analysis directors, that kind of a thing. So Philadelphia, sporting director, head coach. Kansas City had a split, and then the TD was fired, and then Peter Vermes has both of those roles. So, you can draw a conclusion. I mean, there are still a bunch of teams to look at as a part of this. But up top, it's split in the standings. Up top, for most teams that have any kind of status or stature, it is split. It is two folks. As you go down the table, and like I said, I'm not making any kind of a correlation. I'm just, right now as things stand, because things change year to year in the standings. As things stand, the lower in the standings you get, the more that role is, both of those roles are assumed by one individual. So, like I said, you can draw your own conclusions, and we can continue to go down. If you have requests and trying to figure out franchises, and if it's one person or two, or if it's a star chamber or a collective or what have you, one person with a wand on top of a hill sitting on a throne, we can go through that. We can analyze as many teams as you want. I think San Diego is split. Tyler Heaps was named the other day, and they have another individual. So I think San Diego is split as well. So go for it.
And to the point about another time of transition, and I think Ricky's got it, and that I agree with Ricky. It's that this is the big transition for this club. In that, like, you went into this year with, you thought you had more answers than questions. You knew that the Thiago Almada thing was going to hang over your head. He might leave. You would fill the gap. I don't think you ever expected Yorgos Sarkomakis to leave.
No.
He wanted out. You got money for him.
Well, and Cruz Azul wants to come up with the wheelbarrow.
Well, that's what I mean. If Cruz Azul wants to show up with a wheelbarrow for a player who doesn't want to be here, I will help you pack.
Sure.
Because you want to have people who want to be here.
Yeah.
And if he wants the big paycheck from somebody else, I know Garth talked about it in the documentary series that they offered Buyanga money. They offered you money equal to the guy who won the Golden Boot. If you don't want to be here and you want the money from somewhere else, and someone else wants to give it to you, by all means, be happy. Go be happy somewhere else.
Because you have to also, you cannot tarnish your reputation in the world marketplace either.
Yeah, and you can't. And but you went into this year, I think, expecting more answers than questions.
True.
And the Philadelphia game still feels like the fulcrum point for this team, in that it was never the same after Philly. And then once you had, it felt like Gonzo was living on the hot seat. Every week, and it was getting hotter and hotter and hotter. You were never really able to shake the issues that you had after that Philly game. It was just piling on itself, and the pile was getting bigger and bigger.
Right.
Then you had Gigi leave, Amada leave, Chelsea comes for Caleb just so they can offload him with the shadow money and basically put him on a gray shirt, Alabama style, circa 2004.
Gray shirted him to league. Absolutely.
I think it became the way this season played out made all of this so much easier. If the season goes well, let's say you beat Philly 2-0.
Right.
Let's say you don't hit a downturn. Let's say you don't lose all those home games and you're in a situation where you're sitting in like fourth in the table.
Right.
You're not going to win Supporter Shield. You're comfortable in the playoffs, hosting playoff games potentially, and you are dealing with, maybe you do get groups in Leagues Cup still. You get an Open Cup run. Maybe if all that happens, I don't know if you pull the trigger like this because of the way that everything broke, especially after that Philadelphia game.
Right.
And we have had, I vocally have had questions about the mental fortitude on this team, the balls on this team.
Yes.
Some of them have started showing. Jay Fortune is one of them who has shown it. Noah Cobb, again, shown it. Great for the kids. I need someone other than the kids to show it consistently. I need someone other than Dax who came in to show it consistently, and it's great that he's willing to say the quiet part out loud about the way they've played. But when you've had to do it multiple times, that's a problem.
Yep.
I think it's made it easier to make this change now than to do so later. And it's just a knock-on effect from what the season has been for Atlanta United. So, yeah, it is just now you are in a full sale, not pretending that this is an adjustment. This isn't a track. We didn't come into the pits for a track bar adjustment. We rolled this thing back to the garage so we could lift the engine out and either rebuild the engine or put a new one in.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the frame is going to stay there. Some of the nicer pieces that we like of the metaphorical Hendrix motor, some of the nicer pieces, we'll keep them. But this is a wholesale engine rebuild at this point.
Yep.
And hats off to accepting that it's a full sale rebuild and not just an adjustment where we come into the pits, we take a quarter turn out the wedge, and we put you back out there with 4 new tires. No, we took this thing back to the garage to belabor the Motor Racing Network point.
Yeah, well, and to continue, it's like you might have qualified 8th, but if you've got to take your engine out of the car, you're starting at the back of the field.
Yes.
And
so you've done what you needed to do. I don't know. I will say as well that I think Carlos's record. I'm be interested to see how Carlos's record is looked on as time goes on, and that I think the issues that I've had with the way this roster has performed under Rob, kind of point to I understand why you moved on from Gonzo, but he wasn't the only problem. Guys not stepping up to the plate was also part of the problem.
Right.
There are moves that Carlos and company made that were really good. I thought their interleague moves were brilliant. A lot of them. You got Justin Miram for a song.
Yes.
He helped you win a U.S. Open Cup. Amar Sadic was an absolute warrior for this club when he was brought in.
Yep.
You've made moves that looked good on paper. Some of them worked, some of them didn't.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just the way the ball bounces. I don't think his period with this club, and I know that for a lot of people it's split, like 2020 is the fissure. Post like MLS Eastern Conference Final 2019, the Toronto game, everything after that is kind of everything is kind of after that is a fissure point. This is the separation. Everything after that, I don't think all of it was bad. Like, I don't think all of those pieces were bad. It's not batting 0.
No.
0, 0, 0. It didn't do enough. And because of the way the year broke this year, I think it made it so much easier, man, just to not even rearrange the deck chairs, but we cut up the deck chairs for kindling.
Yep.
And now we've started a fire and we're going to get warm by it. But again, same question, man. Like, who do you hire first? Where do you go for it?
Yeah.
We'll get some answers.
Yeah, I think that I think what you do is you bring in the vice president, technical director, or vice president and technical director, and then you have the front office philosophy in place, and then that way you both, or the three of you, meaning Garth, VP TD, or Garth, VP and TD, can then determine what you are looking for in a head coach with the pieces that are here, because you have Miranchuk, you've got Saba, you have Bartosz Slisz, you have the young players working their way up. You've got Jay Fortune, whose contract you need to fix, because Jay is done at the end of this season. So you've got to sign Jay to an extension. You've got to, Stian at the back, Brooks at the back. You've got to figure out what you want to do with Brooks by the end of next season. You've got Noah, who is in. You have Derek Williams, who has done really well when he's healthy, when paired with Stian, because he's given you the height to help out on set pieces. You've got to figure out what you want to do at left back. Although you do have, coming up, you have Matt Edwards. You've got Aiden Torres, who is, working out at right back, with the twos right now. In the midfield, like I said, we talked about Jay. We talked about Bart. You've got Miranchuk now. You've got to figure out what you want to do on the left, and you've got to figure out what you want to do at striker with Saba on the right-hand side. So and then in net, obviously, with Brad and with Josh and with Q and with Jaden Hibbert.
Yeah, my Jaden Hibbert take is Jaden Hibbert's going to pass Cohen sooner rather than later.
And
Jaden Hibbert is the absolute problem with a capital P.
Yes.
All hope of Van Yee enter as he gets better and better and grows.
Yes.
He's still in a growth phase. He's still a kid.
Uh-huh.
Jaden Hibbert's a problem.
Yeah. So you have a lot of problems right now, and I mean that in a good way, as we were discussing this. So you have, left back you've got backline you working their way forward with all the experience that they're gaining under Steve Cook and the twos, and all the experience that they're gaining in Open Cup situations. I point to the Charleston match.
Midfield U is open enough too. We know Jay, but I don't know if anybody. I don't know how many people watched Sunday night's game in Chattanooga.
Yeah, you need to go back and watch.
Alan Carlton is turning into
a
very, very real prospect.
Yeah,
for this MLS club.
Mm-hmm.
The last ball he plays for tying goal is disgusting.
Yes.
Alan Carlton is turning into a very legitimate prospect.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have Torres, who is very well thought of in that midfield. Cooper Sanchez, very well thought of, signed a homegrown deal. The midfield's picking up the slack as well.
Yeah.
On that front.
Yeah. I mean, you add Efra to the mix at the back. Efra, Noah, Matt, Aiden Torres. I say that because Aiden's getting reps at right back right now. Midfield, Alan.
You don't have any bodies.
Yeah. You're looking at Alan Carlton. You're looking at the future in Aiden Torres. Once again, Aiden could be a midfield. Aiden could be at right back to help out backline. You have Ashton Gordon, who's developing at the age of 16. Like I said, the benefactor of that ball from Alan Carlton was Ashton Gordon. And Ashton Gordon got the equalizer in the chaos in Chattanooga. And there's a lot of stuff developing on the farm, to use the baseball analogy. So you've got that coming up to combine with the transactions that you've made. Like I said, Stian, Bart, Saba, Miranchuk, etc. But it's the left and your starting striker, because I will still maintain that Jamal and that Daniel Rios specifically has he has definitely
he's overperformed his contract.
Thank you. Yes.
But I don't think you're keeping both of them.
No,
you got to make a choice because you're going to go get a DP attacker. I love them both, and I am incredibly exhausted every time Jamal plays a game and doesn't assist or score a goal, and then I have to listen to people bitch about how he's not a good striker.
Right.
He's a backup striker who's been forced into this position with Daniel Rios, and they've done good work together. They kind of moneyballed that striker position, if you want to go like full belly bean, where you're like, we're going to try and reproduce the quality and the production of one guy with two guys.
Right.
They've done that job.
Mm-hmm.
They're not perfect. They're backup strikers.
Yes.
Which is fine.
Once again, recapping the breaking news that happened an hour ago. Atlanta United announcing parting ways with Vice President and Technical Director Carlos Bocanegra, effective immediately. President and CEO Garth Lagerwey will assume Bocanegra's duties on an interim basis for the remainder of the 24 season. In the release, Garth had a couple of sentences. We went over those when the announcement was made back at 10 o'clock. Bocanegra originally joined the club as technical director 2015, oversaw roster construction since the inaugural season. Then we went over the accomplishments of Carlos Bocanegra. 7+ seasons in charge in Major League Soccer. Club is currently conducting its search to fill the head coach vacancy. However, there is no timetable for filling that role. Specifically, this was put in the press release. Club is currently conducting its search to fill the head coach vacancy. However, there is no timetable for filling that role. The search for the club's next technical director will begin immediately. In reading this for the second time, the fact that the sentence says only technical director, I don't know if we should read anything into that or not.
You can roll position, but positions and titles are words on a piece of paper. You can change responsibilities pretty easily. This isn't the word of God.
Yes.
Like whatever you put in the job description, quote unquote, for vice president versus technical director, you can roll into one. It doesn't have to stick the exact same way. You can change your structure. Managerial structure can change. Hierarchy and your ladder can change. It's gonna be okay, everybody.
Yeah. So, the last sentences after the paragraphs of the dossier and the accomplishments of Carlos Bocanegra. Club is currently conducting its search to fill the head coach vacancy. However, there is no timetable for filling that role. Search for the club's next technical director will begin immediately. That came out an hour ago. And the search of all searches, the mother of all searches, is now like underway. It was head coach. Now it is head coach and technical director. Garth Lagerwey assuming the duties of VP and technical director in addition to being president and CEO for the foreseeable future until you bring in the individual that the current hierarchy feels fits your dynamic. And then when you bring in that general manager, the technical director, then that's where that added voice comes into play. Hey, we should have this kind of an individual as our new head coach. So that technical director comes in, gets added to the table. Table has its meetings, puts all of its points in the middle, comes up with the idea of whomever they want, as the new head coach for Atlanta United. Then that decision is made. So I think that you have the new technical director with Garth, with the rest of the folks that are decision makers. Then you figure out who your head coach is. So that's where we are. Garth Lagerwey set to address the media at 2 o'clock via Zoom. Like I said, I have not seen anything about any kind of a simulcast on any kind of Atlanta United social media. If they're going to do it, once again, set your notifications. Then you can find out if it's going to be simulcast, if it's going to be put up later. Don't know how long this meeting, this media call is going to be. Traditionally, they're half hours. Garth will basically have an opening statement, and then a lot of time is spent with Q&A. So keep an eye out at 92.9 The Game. They will have reaction later in the afternoon. Do not be surprised if we do the same thing here after Mike and Jason are done with stoppage time. and we kind of have an afternoon power hour or something like that and go through everything that we get to learn this afternoon. So set your notifications. Do not be surprised if after stoppage time, after the emergency session of stoppage time with Mike and Jason, that we come back and do an SDH Power Hour this afternoon and analyze everything that we have heard to that point. So our spidey senses are up for the remainder of the day. And just like I said, as always, set your notifications. You'll know what we're up to. Tune into Mike and Jason.
Sorry, Mitch.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Dude, I was like rebuilding. I was like restructuring like chord layouts for a PC, and I checked my phone and saw like 11 missed messages. I was like, wait, what?
Yes. It goes from wait, what to wait, what?
Yeah. It escalated.
Yes.
This thing escalated at pace.
Yes. And so, like I said, just keep an eye out for us and set your notifications. Do not be surprised if we come back with a power hour this afternoon after the media call set for 2:00, and after Mike and Jason come on and do stoppage time at 92.9 The Game on their social media. We come back and do an SDH PM, a power hour to kind of go through everything that was said, and we'll roll through that today, just to give you your palate cleanser to kind of get you ready for the remainder of the day, what to watch, where to watch it. Vancouver signed Scottish international Stuart Armstrong as a DP through 26, free agent after spending 6 seasons with Southampton. So Stuart Armstrong gets added to Vanni Sartini's Whitecaps for the stretch run. Today, when it comes to soccer on television, you got it, college soccer, it's always going to be there. BN has AFCON qualifying, noon and 3. And you can pick BN up if you don't have BN at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. You pick up Fanatis. You really get a lot of the degenerate stuff, all the channels that you never thought that you would watch until you started watching them. All the BNs, Nuestra Tele, For the Fans, CDO, Goal TV, all of that at Fanatis. League One tonight, Spokane and Omaha. It's on CBS Sports Network. FS2, the U20 Women's World Cup, second match in the group stage for the U.S. is at 9:00 against Morocco. Germany, Nigeria is at 6. BN Espanol simulcasting AFCON qualifying. They have the El Salvadoran Primera at 5. Aguila and Alianza. Universo simulcasting Spain and Paraguay from the U20s at 6. CONCACAF W Champions Cup on the plus. Santa Fe and Vancouver at 8. Portland Thorns and America at 10. Fox Soccer Plus simulcasting U20 Women's World Cup, Spain, Paraguay at 6, Korea, Venezuela at 9. Paramount has group play in CONCACAF Nations League for the true sicko and all of us. Anguilla, Turks and Caicos at 3, Virgin Islands, Bahamas at 4, British Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands at 4:30, and the CONCACAF W Champions Cup at 8 and 10. So that's your viewing for today. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, but obviously with everything going on, with the news that came out a little over an hour ago, it is now the search of all searches for Atlanta United. Jared, last thoughts before we get out of here, before we probably come back later this afternoon.
Pour one out for Wayne Graham passing away, Rice baseball coach. We're going to cross the stream sports-wise. 2003, Rice won College World Series in 8th grade, and it was one of those things where, like, my summers were watching old replays of the College World Series and then watching the College World Series. Wayne Graham, who led Rice to the 2003 title. It's a really fun team. Wayne Graham passed away at 88. One out for the old coach.
Yep. And you get to watch guys like Graham and Gene Stevenson and Augie Garrido at the Cal State Fullerton version of Augie Garrido.
Yeah, those early 2000s College World Series were basically like a couple people stuck in a locker together with a knife in the dark. They were beating the hell out of each other.
Mm-hmm. And it was always a fun watch. Then you always had the big guy, Mike Martin, down at Florida State. Ricky Kimball, he's a winner.
You'd roll into the College World Series and see somebody's got like a 6'7" guy who throws 94. Like, that guy's going to win them a title.
Mm-hmm. And then he would not.
Some boy who's been like hauling hay bales since he was 5 years old.
Yes, yeah. Gene Stevenson with that big old mustache and the Wichita State unis, and he'd have the 1 foot on the top step, and he'd be chewing a massive amount of something. some combination of gum and tobacco and just the early.
Mass.
Yes, it truly was. All right, so we're out of here. We'll be back later this afternoon. Once again, set your notifications for anything coming out of Atlanta United. Mike and Jason are going to be doing a stoppage time, so keep an eye at 92.9 The Game and their socials. Then after that's done, we'll come back, do an SDH PM, and hang out with you for a little bit, and we will discuss what's going on here. So we'll be back later this afternoon. No messing around, no whistling, no nothing. That's the slide. We're out the door. We'll be back later. Set your notifications. See you in a bit.